I'm going to talk about the French social model. So social, you can take it in a very broad conception as a concept of political science. You can take it as a way of life. You can take it, there's a little bit of all of it in it. And of course it refers to social security policies, basically. And the empirical case we will see later is about the safety net of healthcare, which is quite recent and has already been reformed just this month. So what I'm telling you about it is as it was up to today, and there's a little change, just a little one. So welcome to France. It's a beautiful country, good climate, good food, good life, mountains, oceans, everything you can dream of. They have. This is my plan, so I will first talk about the social model in France in real terms, life, money, policies. So very normal. Then we go a little part about the history, the norms and the values of the social security system, what they call the French social model. And in the end we treat, in the third part, an empirical case, how this is realized in one particular area, that is universal medical coverage for healthcare. It means, in other terms, the coverage of poorer people, how they access healthcare. Now, a little bit about France, population and life. There are 66.7 million inhabitants. Seems small compared to Japan. If you put together the population of Germany and France, then you have approximately Japan. So that gives you an idea about Europe being very diversified, smaller nations than yours. It is the second in the European Union population-wide. The first is Germany. And then it's sort of similar with Britain, Italy, and France are sort of more or less the same population. Life expectancy is 82.3 years, average, women and men together. It is 2 years less than Japan. So apparently life is better in Japan. All Japanese people are more resistant. Medium age seems to be very young for you, 40 years, exactly 40 years now. Medium age, not average, it means half of the people when you take 50%. Fertility rate, you will be jealous, it's 2.01 children per woman in average. It is a top rate in Europe. The average in the European Union is 1.58. So that gives you an idea about the very dynamic fertility in France. And when I learned about Japan, I decided to include a little part about this, how this is possible, into my talk. Work time, another difference with Japan, is very much limited by law and it is controlled. It's not just a written law, it is reality. 35 hours a week, you can work a little bit more, then there's overtime. But you're not allowed to work more than 10 hours a day, not more than 48 hours a week, and only 45 a week if it's 12 weeks consecutive. And these are rules which are controlled by public administration. So that's one big difference together with the fertility rate. Paid holidays, minimum 30 working days, which makes about 5 weeks. And then of course you have holidays because there's a long weekend and festivals. And so in average you could say people have their 2 days of weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and something like 2 months of holidays if you put it all together. No, it's a little bit different. Although they have some difficulties, as you can guess. Unemployment is quite high, 10.5%, compared with Germany, 4.7%. Youth employment under 25 is very high. It's 1 out of 4 people. And compared to Germany, 7%, 25 and more, nearly 26 in France. European Union average is 20%, but it's the wrong evidence because most of this unemployment is in the south. Greece, Portugal, Spain, and Italy, where average ranges up to 45% in, I think it's in Greece. Now, this all what I told you already, you can imagine we pay a lot of taxes and a lot of social contributions because you have to finance all this. The children, all the many children and all the many holidays and all the unemployment costs a lot of money. So if you take all the compulsory deductions, compulsory ones together, taxes, all different taxes and contributions, only the compulsory ones, you reach 45% of the GDP. That's half of the GDP. In other terms, when you work 1 hour, half of it goes somewhere else, not in your pocket. Average in the European Union is 38, quite high, because the European Union, there where the big populations are, has a very well-developed welfare state. And if you take OECD average, it's 35. So France is much above. How many foreigners in the country? Officially foreigners, not French nationals, is 5%. But that's not very much, although the political debate is concentrated on this. In Germany, you have more than 10%, and Ireland is top in the European Union with 12% of official foreigners residents in the country. The Muslim population is difficult to estimate because it's forbidden in France to make statistics with ethnic or religious or whatever origins. So we don't know. We can only find it out by sort of field studies, and estimations vary from 7 to 10. I put 8 because I thought the difference was so big, and statistics I consulted were all very much different. So it's nearly 10% or just below, with a third saying they are really believers and living according to Muslim prescriptions. So that is the biggest Muslim population in Europe, outside the Arab countries. There's another big problem. Distrust in the political elite developed largely. People are very angry, they are afraid, they lack confidence in the future. And we have studies worldwide, you may have seen some, about the level of happiness in different countries. But the happiest people live, I think it was in Denmark, so somewhere, I think it was Denmark, some Scandinavian country. And France is really very down the bottom, at the level of some countries from Africa where there are really problems. So you wonder why. Nobody really understands it. People say that they are sad, they don't believe in the future, they don't trust anybody anymore, and especially not the politicians, whether they're from the right or the left. The result of all this is the National Front, an extreme right movement or very conservative movement, reaches nearly a third of all the votes. So that's a problem. The last regional election in 2015 brought more than 27% of all the votes for the Front National. It's a problem because they have an economic program which is just a disaster. Going back to the French franc, getting out of the European Union and things like this. And they have a discourse very against foreigners and against Muslims in particular, so there's a problem. Well, France is a country of cheese. Yes, but let's go back to the good things. Here are all the different regions who make different cheese. This is not only to show you a nice picture, it's to say this. There are nearly 400 types of different cheese, which you may think is a nice thing, but very wise men thought it was a problem. General de Gaulle, he said it was impossible to govern France because it's a country where people have a different cheese every day. In other terms, they're very individualistic. They want to have choice every moment and every time. They want to choose everything, be free will, and they have a high expectation towards the state. So normally, if you have this culture of individualism and free choice, like in America, you don't expect much from the state. In France, these two opposites go together, and that's part of the social model. I noted a French term. You may know the terms welfare state or the terms État social, social state, which globally means the same thing, or there's debates theoretically about the difference, but sort of globally it means a big social security system, very generous. The French translation is Etat-Providence. Now I have a few French speakers here in the room who know this. I speak under their control. Providence is something related to God and to heaven in the French language. It means something religious. So saying the social state, the social security system is Etat-Providence means really you expect that God, some power like God, will provide the money and will do the good decisions. And if you're not happy, then you're just shouting against your God because he was not good enough.